The construction industry has been learning to navigate through this pandemic like many other sectors. But now, 1 year into the pandemic, they're facing a whole new set of challenges. Here to talk more about that, we have Ryan Goodman, the principal and general manager of Aryze Developments. Ryan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
In the last few weeks, we've seen some pretty significant changes. The cost of construction is rising, land prices are soaring, and there's a lack of skilled workers. It's the perfect storm. What do you think is driving these changes?
I think we're really dealing with supply chain issues right now. It's on the construction side. On the land price side, I think it's, Victoria especially is weathering the pandemic better than many other places in Canada, and I think that we have, the same economic forces that have always brought people to Victoria is stronger than ever, and so there's a tremendous amount of pressure on land prices and housing prices here, and a tremendous amount of demand to be in our city. In terms of construction prices, though, we are seeing a ton of escalation across the board in construction. I mean, there's lots of news around the price of lumber, how it's gone up over 300% in the last year. That is more of a supply side issue where manufacturing facilities are having to be work at reduced capacity due to social distancing and COVID precautions, and that is really trickling down into a lack of supply, as well as tremendous demand for housing right now. So prices are going up in a big way.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. So, all of these challenges, the rise in construction costs, the labor shortage, and the increase in land prices mean the industry is having to pass on some of that cost to the buyers, the homeowners. So how is that impacting the market?
It's not, for the construction industry, it's actually fortunate that prices are going up so they can continue to operate, because the prices of materials is going up faster than the cost of housing right now, and so the economics of some of these products is being put under pressure, and so the cost of housing is being passed on to the consumer. I mean, that's combined with it's harder than ever to bring new projects forward into the market these days. There's a lack of inevitability in new housing projects. Just because a housing project is proposed doesn't mean it will be built, and so all of that creates a really challenging market in Victoria.
Does that mean that the cost of the homes are just going to rise for consumers since this new cost isn't going anywhere?
I think that's the case right now. Unless there's some change on the supply side where we can reduce costs somewhere in the process, I can't see how the price of homes is going to come down anytime soon. We have high demand for the underlying land, and we have costs going up across the board for the raw materials of making the homes or constructing the homes. And then on the approval side, we have total uncertainty within the approval of new housing in Greater Victoria, which means there's uncertainty in the process. There's high costs to bring new projects just to market, and there's high costs of holding the land. So it's kind of like the perfect storm right now for development and construction in our city.
And speaking specifically about Victoria, it has one of the least affordable smaller housing markets in Canada. And this is something that's highlighted on your website. It says the company is built on a foundation of advocacy, and that includes pushing for affordability. So how is Aryze and the local construction industry responding to this crisis we're in?
So we've partnered with BC Housing on a few of our projects. We just finished leasing up a purpose-built rental building in the Quadra Village. We have one home left right now, but it's gone really well. BC Housing was actually able to help us subsidize the rents on some of those homes, and so it's through those kind of partnerships that we've been able to find subsidies and bring the cost of housing down for the end consumer. The biggest thing the government could do, though, and an area that we are really advocating for and hoping that there's some resolution on in the years to come, is housing in established neighborhoods, or new housing in established neighborhoods, should be inevitable. It shouldn't be so difficult to bring townhouses to a neighborhood that has single-family homes, or a small apartment building to an area that hasn't seen development in 30 or 40 years, but is walkable to downtown, for example.
Yeah, the industry is sort of in a tough spot right now, but, is there any good that can come out of this? Will this sort of be the tipping point to getting us to the change that we already desperately needed?
I think the one thing that I believe we're hopeful for is that like many things COVID is doing, it's totally changing the paradigm for industries such as people working from home and all sorts of things. Like, we hope that that this will allow the provincial government to create some inevitability in the development process. So, and take some of the pressure off the municipalities to be the gatekeepers for housing in these communities. So if there was a way to create certainty that new housing was coming to communities and it wasn't something that had was a maybe, and I think that would help a lot on the supply side and be able to do some good in terms of creating enough options of new housing that prices could stabilize at least.
When it comes to the actual consumer helping, there are clear ways to support other industries. If indoor dining is banned, we know we can support restaurants by ordering takeout. But when it comes to the construction and development industry, it's not that crystal clear. So what can people do to support the advocacy work you're doing and to boost recovery and housing affordability?
Yeah, Aryze and many developers in Victoria, we work within existing neighborhoods. So the best thing you can do if you support housing is to speak with your city councillors, speak and be active within your within your community associations. If you support housing, your voice is really important in that process, and register to speak at public hearings where there's new housing being proposed. You would be shocked at how few people are actually engaged in that process, and how important it is for the community to be involved in new housing projects, especially if people are seeking to have lower cost housing and more options of new housing in their neighborhoods. Like they can be, there's so many ways to get involved and be part of that driving change, and that is there's a big role for the community in the housing and development industry that I don't think that many people actually understand.
The construction industry is always changing, and with the added layer of a pandemic, it's been even harder to navigate. But it's nice to hear about the work that's being done behind the scenes and learning about the solutions you're working on and how people can get involved. Ryan, thanks so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. All the best.
Yeah, thanks for having me.